Hello. Those of you who are interested in defamation and probably read some comments here on the channel, you already know that the approach, or should I say approaches, to the very notion of defamation, to the very concept of defamation, those approaches are different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and not everything you learn about defamation in, let's say, like United States originating sources, not everything of that is equally applicable in Quebec. Uh, Particularly, it's like common layman, I would say, knowledge that truth is a good defense in case of defamation. And to a certain extent, in Quebec, we're talking about Quebec, to a certain extent, it's true, but only to a certain extent. Because the fact that somebody told the truth in itself is not enough to defend yourself in a case of defamation. There are nuances here. And again, if you have a particular situation, you better consult a lawyer because those nuances are quite peculiar and they depend on particular facts, as you would see. Uh, the idea where it comes from is that in Quebec, it's not, as we already discussed in some videos here, it's not defamation itself which is a cause to go to the court with an application, but sort of reputational loss, some damage to dignity of a person. And that, as you can imagine, can come even out of truth being revealed. So what is to be looked at? First of all, if we are talking about truth, one should verify if it was truth, and it's not enough to honestly believe that something was true. You would have to show that you made reasonable steps to get yourself assured that something was true, that you verified the information, maybe not to its scientific precision, but at least to an extent where it's not something that you read somewhere or somebody told you or you would want to believe, and God forbid, not your guess about it. Not something plausible, simply. If you're sure that something is true, you should be prepared to demonstrate to the court that you verified as much as you could. But then again, it's only the first step. Second is like there are different sorts of truth. And some truth is important within the family, for example, but is less relevant on a municipal level or on some like public gathering, for example. Or it's interesting and even maybe relevant in that particular municipal gathering, but it's not as much relevant on like countrywide television. Of course, when we have a look at social networks, the information could be spread even further. And again, it depends on the language. Sometimes it's like relatively not so much known language, so it is like concentrated within this certain community. Sometimes it's a language that could be read like worldwide or close to that, so that relatives, family, friends of that person across the globe could be touched by this information. And again, if the information, even being true, was not of that significance to be spread that wide, uh, then again, it might be seen in Quebec as defamatory, as a reason to hold somebody liable, even though, like, factually that was true. Also, the quality of information is important in the sense that even if it was not spread into to a greater public, but the quality of information was trivial, something that the public doesn't have like legitimate right to know, even narrow public. Something about some person's mental capacity, uh, certain like health situations, certain criminal background, if it's just the background and has nothing to do with the current affairs in this particular situation. Something about like family history, something about somebody's, I don't know, sexual performance or artistic performance, or some review of his or her talent by, again, somebody else, which was done in private situation again, and so forth. So something that would be otherwise seen as none of everybody's business, let's put it this way. So legitimately, the public was not that much interested in that information. That information would not change anything to the public. Of course, again, context is back here, because one thing is if we're talking about a politician, another thing if we're talking about your elderly neighbor, for example. But again, as you see, it's all factual, and it's all up to the judge to review and see if there is anything in that. But the point of this conversation is to show that even if it's true, it's not enough. It should be appropriate, and it should bring the spreading of this information should bring some public good, some provable public good. Otherwise, it might be still seen as defamatory. Thank you, and have a nice day.